Camille Hicks. I heard her present last month during the Fort Bend County Senior Program, and she did a phenomenal job presenting information. We often don't think about this part of disaster preparedness, and it opened my eyes to some things that I need to do around my home. So I'm not going to talk anymore, but I just hope that you take notes and benefit from her presentation as much as I did. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Hicks.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. And feel free, this is interactive, so feel free to, I know we're virtual, but feel free to talk back, ask questions, stop me. It's not a problem at all to interrupt me here. So today is Wellness Wednesday, and I'm happy to be here to talk a little bit about how to stay hurricane ready, because we are in hurricane season. So a little bit about me before I get started. I am from Houston, Texas. To be specific, I'm from Missouri City, Texas, and I am a licensed insurance broker. We focus on protecting people's assets, families, money, and we do that through our insurance products. I really have a passion for helping people protect their families, and I also work a lot with small businesses and nonprofit organizations. So today we're going to focus on three things: planning ahead for an emergency, recovering from a disaster, and home inventory. It might sound a little bit random right now, but we'll put it all together because home inventory is one of the things that we find that people are really lacking when it comes to being prepared for an emergency. So before we get started, I want you to think a little bit about what's most valuable to you. And it's not just things, it's people too. What and who is important to you? When you think about what an asset is, it's a useful or valuable thing, person, or quality, property owned by a person or a company, regarded as having value and available to meet debts, commitments, or legacies. So think about what's important to you. And then throughout this presentation, we'll talk about how to protect those things and people that are most valuable to you. So for a lot of people, the most valuable things are family, oftentimes your home, income. People don't think about protecting their income, your assets, any other assets outside of your home and income, possibly a business, and most importantly, yourself. So the way we work with people to help protect these items is through, we're looking at your automobiles, your home, your life, literally, retirement income, health. We do that through health insurance and documents, which we'll go into, estate planning, and the organization of it all. We find a lot of people, even the most organized person, if you don't, you can't do what you don't know. And a lot of times we can be very organized, but we're not organizing the right things and documents to be prepared for something like a hurricane to hit us. So how do you protect what's most important to you? There's a couple ways to do that. One of the biggest things is documents. We find that people are lacking in having documents, and we'll go through the documents that you need to have ready in the event of an emergency. Simple planning. It really takes about 20 to 30 minutes to start to get a solid foundation of planning together, to think about what to do in the event that water is coming in your door during a hurricane. During Hurricane Harvey, we literally had people calling the office asking us, okay, water is coming into my home right now. What do I need to grab? What do I take with me? Insurance documents. We want to protect your savings, any financial, monetary savings, and any investments as well. So there's 3 areas where people may lack. And if this is you, don't feel bad, because a lot of people lack in these areas, and that's why we're we're having this conversation so that you can start to plan and not be in an area of lack when something disastrous happens in your life. So having a financial plan or just having sufficient things to protect you and your family. Retirement, which we won't get in today so much. We won't talk about retirement, but that's one of the areas that we work with people on. And then one of the biggest areas is information and communication. Can people find your documents if something were to happen to you? Can you find your documents if something were to happen to you? These are the things we're really going to focus on today. So I want you to think about, where are you lacking? Is it your plan? Do you know where all your insurance documents are? What about retirement accounts, bank accounts, all the things that are important that you might not have in one place? Think about those things and where you're lacking. Communication. Do people know, outside of you, does somebody know where to find your important information? That's one of the biggest things. We have people calling us. Somebody might pass away, or somebody can't get to their documents, and the children or the grandchildren have just no clue where to get the documents to help their loved one. And then lastly, organization. So the biggest thing is to evaluate what you need. Everybody's situation is going to be different based on where you live. Do you rent? Do you own? Do you have a car, retirement savings, etc.? But here are a couple of things you can evaluate. Inventory. We're going to go over that, and I'm going to actually give you some templates to follow if needed, to be able to do home inventory for yourself, whether you live in an apartment, a facility, or you have a home. You definitely need to know what you have. Insurance and financial review. That's something that should be done at least once a year, because it changes. A lot of times we have a disaster and then you go look for your insurance documents and you realize you don't know what you have right now. The last time you looked at the actual policy or the policy number or the dates was 2 years ago. A document management, just keeping up with all of that. An emergency plan and kit. I will give you the resources to get a kit together for yourself so that when something happens, you're ready. And then we will also look at a communication plan, but that's something to think about. Do you need a communication plan? Who are the people that you need to be able to communicate? Or who are the people who need to be able to access your important information if something were to happen to you? And then also, how are they going to access it? Do you have a binder where you keep everything? Or do you have documents online? That's what we mean by a communication plan. Okay, so let's get into some of the documents that are important for you to have. And we'll go over the actual, what these documents are here in a second, but a will or trust is something that most people need, depending on your situation. Financial directives, medical directives, and hopefully I'm not going too fast. Please tell me to slow down if you need me to. Insurance documents, home inventory, which if you haven't taken home inventory, when we finish this virtual webinar, you will have the tools or the resources to be able to conduct a home inventory. Medical documents. What prescriptions are you on? That you need to have a list of that. Vehicle documents, and then just any personal information that might be important to you and your family. Okay, so I try to condense this into 3 simple steps. When we finish this meeting, or at some point when you get 20 minutes, it really takes 20 minutes to start. I want you to evaluate what you need. Go ahead and find those documents, put them together, pull them together, and then communicate it to those who need it. That's it. That will get you prepared for disaster, those 3 simple steps. And oftentimes we won't take 20 minutes to prepare ourselves for the what ifs if something happens. So here's a little bit more information on the important documents. So most of you are familiar with the will, but really your will it determines what happens if you're not here. Who do you want to raise your kids? Who will settle your affairs? Those are all things to think about. And that's a simple document. And even if you do not have a will, just for the people on this call, I can help you with that. If you just, I'll have my information at the end of this presentation. If you do not have a will today, go ahead and contact me so I can help you get one. A living will, which is your advance directives. This is what you need to make sure that your healthcare wishes are known. Who's going to make decisions for you when you cannot? And keep in mind that all of these important documents, as much as it prepares you, it's not just for you, it's for those that you love, to make things easier for everybody when something happens. I have a friend who his father got into a really bad accident, and all of a sudden he was in a vegetative state. And he's now been in a vegetative state for probably over 5 years. There were no wishes left. So even though they know that he shouldn't be in that state, nobody wants to make that decision. But if the decision was already there and there was a list that said, I don't want to live in this state for after so long, he told me he would be more comfortable pulling the plug. But instead, they're literally taking care of him around the clock, because none of the kids, there's 3 kids, none of the kids can make that decision. So you just don't want to put your family in a position where they have to be left trying to figure out what you wanted. So that's why the living will is also important. Then there's the healthcare power of attorney, which that document simply appoints someone to carry out your healthcare wishes. And these are all simple documents that can be found online. And again, especially the will, I can help you with a will if you don't have one, because I want to make sure everybody at least has a will. I also can help you with the financial power of attorney as well. But that allows loved ones to take care of financial affairs for you. So if you have a bank account and you do not have somebody's name listed on it, it doesn't matter what happened to you, they cannot access it. So it's important. I understand you might not want your kids or your grandkids to have access right now. Some of them, you don't want them to have access. But when something happens, you want them to have access. So that's what that financial POA or power of attorney is for. Then a living trust is similar to a will, but it allows somebody else to control assets while you are living. And if you have assets that need to be controlled, this is huge because it can avoid probate. And I don't know how many of you have had to go through probate. I have. It can take years and a couple $1,000s. Lastly, for those of you who might be like a fur mom like I am, and you have a fur baby at home, some type of pet, you also want to think about the protection for your pet. I have a chip in my dog, so that if something happens, we can find her. Or you can also delegate somebody as a guardian for your pet, but often pets get left out of the planning process. Even though we treat them like kids and love them to death, we forget to put them in the plan. So for those of you who are animal lovers and have fur babies, don't forget to add them to your plan.
Camille, I have a question.
Yes.
So the financial POA,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if your parent has you listed, like you're on the account with them,
Mm-hmm.
they can have access to the funds if something were to happen to them and they're still alive.
Yes.
But then some people they put pay on upon death. Have you ever heard that? So what is that? Like the other person can't access the money until the person dies?
That's correct. And not only till they die, you have to show a death certificate too. So you have to wait until you actually have a death certificate to access the account and the funds.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions right now? Okay, a couple more documents. Healthcare documents. You want to organize any Medicare policies, health insurance policies. your insurance card. If it's in your wallet, that's great. But what I do with my family is like I have them make photocopies of everything and put it in one place. So that if something happens and my mother is in a different city or a different place, her card might be in her wallet, but I don't have access to it. So you want to make copies and save it into a folder or put it online. And I have some suggestions online. I use something called Dropbox. You might be familiar with it, but it's online storage. Some people use Google Drive. And I feel like I'm missing one more, but those are the two main ones, Dropbox, Google Drive. Oh, and then a lot of people use if you have an iPhone, I don't know how Android works, but I know iPhone has like a cloud storage where you can save everything as well. So those are all sufficient ways to have the copies of everything. But you definitely want to have copies, not just on you in your wallet, but you want to have them in a place stored for yourself or for your loved ones to be able to access. And then one of the biggies, I keep saying it, we're going to go over it, but home inventory, knowing what's in your home. And I think my next 2 slides or so will have the home inventory information as well. And then lastly, insurance documents. You want to have the summaries of your home policies, auto, renters policies. And not only do you want to have a copy, you want to easily be able to find who to contact when something happens. Because you don't want something to happen and now you have to go find the contact or call a 1-800 number. And sometimes that might be your only option. But I know for my clients, they have my direct contact. So you don't have to sit on the phone with a 1-800 number. So if you have an agent, you want to have their information not only in your phone, but written down so that a loved one could easily call and take care of something, a claim. So I just talked about digital backups. Passwords are huge. You have to find a way to have your passwords saved in a safe way. And a lot of the digital backup programs will also have a secure method of keeping your passwords. I know Dropbox has one. There's also a company called Bitwarden, Bitwarden. And it's literally just something to store passwords. And if you're not a tech person, go ahead and write them down and have a place where somebody knows where they are, where they can find passwords, because it makes everything so much easier for people to be able to access your information. And you want to be able to authorize access to things where you can. And then you want to have discussions with family. This is a big one. Every family works differently. Some people really like to talk about things and put it out there, and some people don't really want, the money hungry uncle to have access to a bank account, right? So it just depends on your family, but you definitely have to find a way to either have everything ready in case something happens for that one person you can trust, or if you are part of a family who can communicate and talk about these things, don't be afraid to discuss with your family. It doesn't take that long. It could be over Sunday dinner, a 10-minute conversation. Hey, my life policies are in that drawer over there. I have this thing called Dropbox, and let me share the link with you. It's in your email. Just those simple sentences and conversations can save you and your family so much headache and devastation down the road. We get so many calls at our agency. Unfortunately, somebody has passed away. I know mom and dad had a policy, but we have no idea where it is. We don't know who it's with, how much it is. They have nothing. And there are ways to find it, but it could take some time to find policies, to find homeowners coverage. You're digging through things. Sometimes it's after a disaster, everything's wet. Discuss with your family, just a couple sentences, a quick conversation. Here's where my stuff is. If something happens to me, it's in that china cabinet over there. It's under the bed. It's in the shoebox in the closet. Just those simple sentences can really save you and your family a lot of heartache. And then lastly, beneficiaries. Something happens to you, Please make sure your beneficiaries are updated on all of your, whether it's your life insurance, retirement accounts, wherever a beneficiary can be listed, make sure that those are up to date. We've literally had people call, they still have their ex-husband as their beneficiary. And there is nothing you can do once you're gone. Your family cannot change that information. So I have exes all the time that get the proceeds from policies and whatnot when they did not intend, the person didn't intend to leave it to them. They just never changed it. So communicate and organize yourself. So what should your plan include? The communication plan, and none of this has to be so detailed. It's just literally making sure somebody knows where your stuff is. An emergency evacuation plan. I think if any of you were experienced Harvey, I think at this point, a lot of us have started to plan differently and think about what do we do in the case of an emergency. And then I do have a link I'll provide through, I believe it's FEMA, that will help you plan an evacuation route as well. And then your emergency supply kit. So let me show you some resources that you can use to build some of these lists. So this link right here, I don't know if we can I can maybe send it out or put it in the...
We can send it out to everyone who registered, but
okay.
Feel free to do whatever you like.
Okay, I can send it out, but I'm also gonna try to put it in the chat for you as well. But this is a link that I've created that just has some really quick links on it for you to access. I'm gonna put in the chat, and then if you're not able to grab it from the chat, I can also send it out, or you're welcome to contact me directly. Okay, so there's one link. So this is a link I created that has some helpful things on it. So if you were to click on it, you can come down to resources. And there's a couple of different ones. There's a life management for individuals, a life management tools that has a lot of storage information on it, checklists, etc. You can find out if you're hurricane ready right now. You can click here for a hurricane preparedness quiz. And then I also have these hurricane readiness checklists. And those are the ones that I want to show you today. So let me pull it up here. Okay. So this is the disaster document. So this just gives you a little bit of, these are things you probably know, but you just don't always have it in one place. These are some items that you should have readily available, either on an online storage or in some type of binder. I use this big portfolio that is called Life Folio. You can see it's the same company that's here on the page. I bought this on Amazon, and I bought it because it already is organized for you. And it has all of our documents for my family in it. And I have tabs for everybody, life insurance, health policies for my parents, for my brother. And so this is how I personally keep up with it. I do it online and I have it in here, just in case. So it's up to you, whatever you're comfortable with, but this is a good idea. But so everything on this page that's relative to my family is in this binder and online. I mean, it's called Life Folio. That's the system that I use personally. So you can also access this sheet by the link from the link that I sent you. Okay, and then there's an emergency kit checklist here. So just so you can see some of the things, making sure you have blankets readily available. I don't know how many of you were here during the winter freeze that we had this year, but we were without power for several days. And even though we live in Texas, it got cold, cold, cold. That 1 week. And even if I felt like I maybe had 4 blankets on and I was still cold. But if you had to leave your home and you weren't at home, you want to make sure you have some blankets or sleeping bags, garbage bags. These are simple things you keep around the house. But during hurricane season specifically, you want to have them ready. You don't want to have to run to the store. A Swiss Army knife, water, obviously, matches, pliers, those type of things. Don't forget about your fur baby's pet food. Just making sure you have these things ready so that you do not have to make changes or run to the store to get these items. Okay, here's the home and inventory. So home inventory can be very, very simple. It just needs to be done. So you can see this is a very simple sheet. You put your information on it, you have your location and address, and you put an item, description, value, that's important, and your purchase date. So doing this ahead of time, and you can do this on a piece of paper, you can do this on a spreadsheet, you can probably go online and find something that works for you. You can also use my link. But the key here is to have one done with this information. So you want to put TV, you want to say description, Sony, 50-inch, value, whatever amount, and the purchase date. The reason this is important is because when it comes to filing a claim, there's people who lost, if you lose everything and you have to go and file a claim, they're going to give you the least amount of value they can for an item. That's just how insurance works. If you have a value, if you have a receipt, if you have a picture and things written down, they are forced to look at what you have and provide you with the value of what your item was worth. And having this inventory can speed up a claims process as well as help you recover from a disaster. So we cannot prevent or control what happens to us, but we can minimize the damage and we can speed up the recovery by being prepared. So during, it was Harvey, I had people who took them almost a year to recover because it took them 6 months to get all their receipts together, 3 months to figure out what they had in their home. And it can really slow down the process. Whereas I had other people who were prepared. Literally, they sent us the sheets, the home inventory. We filed the claim, sent them a check. So we can't prevent a hurricane from hitting us, but you can prevent or minimize the recovery period for yourself. So that's why home inventory is so important. So this sheet is very basic. There are some more detailed sheets, but the biggest thing is to have this information and to have pictures of the items. That is what really, really helps.
So Camille, what if you purchased a TV 5 years ago and you don't have access to the receipt? Like, what would you recommend? Is just having a picture?
Most definitely. What I recommend is taking a picture of the TV and the serial number or barcode. That's what really helps because everything is online. You can go look it up. The insurance adjuster will actually go look it up for you. But if they have a serial code, a model number, it's okay if you don't have a purchase date or receipt, but they can see that she owned this TV and this is the model it was and this is how much it was worth.
Okay, so other than televisions and jewelry,
yes,
what are some other things that should be on this inventory?
That's a great question. I would suggest going room for room, not just looking at jewelry and electronics. Go room by room and literally look at what's important to you in that room. You'd be surprised once you start going through your house, the things that you realize, oh, I would not want to lose this and not get anything for it. Some things are not replaceable, right? But the things that are replaceable, you want to go through picture frames, crystal, china, sofas, excuse me, Hi, some of us have expensive vacuum cleaners. I had a customer that had a pretty nice vacuum cleaner. So you just want to go through and look at your house or apartment or room by room, and think about what's valuable to you in that room. So it could be a nice coffee table, dishes, most definitely electronics. And then of course you mentioned jewelry as well. So hopefully that helps, but I will look at anything that's important to you.
Oh, it does. It does.
Yeah.
And then like you may have jewelry that you didn't purchase, passed down from,
Which makes it even more valuable.
Mm-hmm. So just take pictures.
Take pictures. And I really suggest too taking a snapshot of the room, because people even forget what their floor, it's good to have like a picture of your floors. If you have some hardwood floors, like this is the room, this is what it looked like before the disaster hit. Refrigerators. People forget about their refrigerator, their stove. And all of those things add up. They add up. We have so much stuff in our homes and cars that are valuable that we don't realize until they're gone. So it doesn't replace what it meant to you, but you can definitely help soften the blow, especially financially. And that's what I find, that a lot of people who don't plan, you end up in a position, whether you have the money or not, nobody wants to, have to start all over from scratch with nothing. So you want to have insurance, and you want to have the documents to back up a claim.
Hello, I have a quick question for you.
Hi, Nate.
Okay, would it be safe? Because I did this last year. Well, I did it early part of the year around March. I got a safety deposit box from my bank.
Okay, good.
Would you recommend that?
Yes, most definitely. A safety box or anything that cannot be destroyed in a fire or flood is extremely beneficial to have. And you can, even if you like to do things and put things on paper, this is something you could even put in that safety box, because at least, even if you have to evacuate your home and there's a disaster, you can still come back and get that safety box, or you can pick it up and take it with you, depending on what kind you have.
And everyone in the family knows the property and documents are there. You're not looking under the mattress.
Exactly.
Right.
And sometimes people, even when you have to quickly evacuate and can't take it with you, a lot of times when they come back and do disaster cleanup, they often find those, and you can still recover some things. So I most definitely suggest that. But if you're a tech savvy person, I definitely recommend having a online backup storage for your items as well. Any other questions right now on home inventory? How are we on time?
You're fine.
Okay. Okay. And again, this document can be found on the link as well. And lastly, as far as document management is concerned, this is for your insurance policies. Of course, this can be created on a piece of paper. This can be created in a Word document, but you just don't want to forget about all your policies that you have or might have. Auto insurance, life insurance. You want to put the type of policy. You want to put the carrier's name. It's not enough to know you have auto insurance. Your kids, grandkids, husband, wife. Well, your husband or wife might know who the carrier is, but your kids might, or your grandkids might not know. So it's important to put the type of policy, the company it's insured with, the policy number, and if there's a document location, put that there, and that way they have one sheet with everything. So that could be auto, life, home, could be your renter's policy. Some of you might have umbrella policies. You might have a business that has insurance. Your retirement documents, people forget to include their retirement summaries, or maybe you haven't pulled a summary in years. Every year you need to have an updated copy of your retirement accounts in your safe binder folder, online for people to be able to access, and then final expense policies if you have one. That's life insurance. So just the important thing here is to have it somewhere written down in one place, and to have the company name, the policy number, and wherever that policy might be located, or a contact. As much as you can put down would be beneficial for yourself and for those that love you if something happened. Okay. Okay. The last link, and the other link I want to show you is ready.gov. Very, very beneficial website. This site has a lot of resources that you can use to prepare for whatever might happen. So we're talking about hurricanes, but there's so many other things, right? The pandemic, illness, even when a bad storm hits, sometimes it could be a tornado. It's not just a hurricane, but we're talking about hurricane, but there's so many things that can happen. So this site gives you a lot of resources to prepare for those things. And it has plans on this site, has checklists. They have something for kids. There's so many resources. So I highly suggest you check out this site. Again, it's ready.gov. And you can see here that they have different things that can happen. And then they also give you tips to work through those things or be prepared for those things. So like, for example, here's hurricanes. They will give you checklists. Okay. So they talk about a plan. They have the same things we just talked about, reviewing important documents, but keeping your phone charged. And then I know that there's checklists somewhere on the site as well, but I won't take your time finding the checklist, but just know that this site is a great site to go to. You can browse through and find what works for you and your family that you feel like you need to be prepared, because they just have a lot of great information on here. So they have like documents here. Okay, here we go. So there's a playbook, there's an information sheet, a business hurricane kit, emergency financial first aid kit. So there's just a lot here. I hope I didn't close my presentation. Does anybody have any questions while I'm pulling it back up here?
So Camille, you mentioned that, can you help me understand, like, what is the going rate for someone to help you develop a will? And are there templates online that you can use, or do you still have to take those templates to an attorney?
Yeah, that's a great question. The going rate that I found is around $200 to get a will done. There are templates online that you can find that you pay for that are much less expensive. You do not need an attorney to do it. It helps if you have assets, then it definitely helps to have an attorney. Meaning if you have multiple homes, you know, you might have retirement funds, a number of grandkids or kids that you want to make sure it's structured right, then you definitely want to contact an attorney. If you have something, a basic need, and when I say basic, I mean you have a primary home and maybe a life insurance policy, something basic like that, you don't necessarily need an attorney. You can go online and find a template for a will. You can contact me. I am offering this complimentary for people on this call that if you need just a basic, you have something basic will need, I can help you with the basic documents.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
This is Donna. You
Hi,
can
Donna.
also call the Houston Law Association for Legal Aid. They have will clinics,
Awesome.
and they generally post them in various sectors of the city. Don't know if it's going on right now because of the pandemic,
Okay.
but the Houston Legal Aid does offer that service as well.
Oh, that's good information. Thank you for sharing that. Because those are probably complimentary clinics that they offer that allow you to create your will for free.
They are definitely complimentary.
Okay. Thank you for adding that information in. Any other questions right now? I think I'm pretty much done.
Well, I have another question.
Okay.
When you have family members who are not comfortable having the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of my issue. My parents, they're not comfortable having a conversation, just talking about, what happens after their death. And I
Mm-hmm.
try to tell them, it's good to have a plan. There are 5 kids. You want to make sure. What my mom's statement to me was, "You're gonna do what's right, aren't you?" I'm like, "Well, what does that mean?"
Right. That definitely makes it more difficult, but we deal with it all the time. So depends on, everybody's different, but even if you can do the one, I call it the one-liner. Okay, they didn't tell you, they didn't want to talk about it, but do you even know if they have life insurance? Have they told you that?
Oh yes, they have numerous life insurance.
Do you know where they are?
No.
Okay, so the one-liner that seems to work is, okay, I don't need to know where they are. I mean, I don't need to know what they are, but can you tell me where they are? Can you tell me where they are? Trying to find that one sentence that you can kind of just say in passing or say at the table, the dinner table. If you can the first thing is finding out where they are or who are they with. If you can throw out one-liners like that and see if they'll answer you, that's typically how most people are able to get a small piece of information. But just knowing where the policies are or who they're with can make all the difference. So if you can just find out where are they located.
Okay, that's a good start. Thank you.
Yeah, that's my suggestion on where to start. It does make it difficult, but as family members or children or spouses or whoever you might be to that loved one, it's important that you do try, that you do dig, because it's only going to affect you when something happens. And you're not the only one dealing with this. A lot of people call us with the same question, but you definitely want to do what you can and challenge them.
Can I offer a suggestion?
Please. Yes, please.
My mom just passed about a year ago. And fortunately, she was open to conversations, but she also had almost a playbook wrote out, because I did have siblings who didn't want to have those conversations. So she just wrote a play-by-play action. This is my life insurance policy. This is where it's at. This is my safe deposit box. This is whose name is on it. And she wrote all of that out, and she made copies of them, and she gave them to each of her children. So we didn't have to have a conversation, but the information was passed forward. And if your parents aren't open to doing that, do a questionnaire list, almost like an interview, and then just give them that, and at their convenience, ask them to fill it in for you guys as a roadmap when something happens.
That's a great suggestion. I would definitely try that, and that's exactly what I'm saying is try some things and find a way, because it can be simple things like what Miss Donna just said they might respond to. They might do it on their own time and fill it out and then give it to you, or maybe they'll fill it out and put it somewhere safe and then tell you, hey, when something happens, I put my sheet here. This is where to find it. But I encourage you to try, because it is up to you. Because if somebody doesn't want to talk about it, that's, you know, that's what they want to do or don't want to do, but it will affect you as their child. And so it's important that you try to do what you can. I want to encourage you just to try some things and see what works.
So in that case where Donna just mentioned her mother wrote the plan out, but did she have a will, or is a will always necessary?
Yes, Sandra, she did have a will.
Okay.
But I mean, even with a will, if you don't know where stuff is or who's holding that will or who the attorney is that wrote that will,
you might as well not
really
have.
Still not much help.
It's not. You might as well not have one if you can't. So.
Yeah, and one other thing too is her attorney, for whatever reason, told us we didn't need to probate her will because we were a family that was in unity. However, when it came time to sell her house, the fact that we did not probate that will caused a lot of delay in selling our house, with having to do heirship affidavits and find people who knew her and all of that type stuff. So
thank you.
Keep that in mind too.
Yeah, you really do need to probate. And probate, just so you know, that it can take anywhere. It could be quick, or it can take anywhere up to like 3 years to probate, depending on the court system, there's different factors. And then the average cost is usually, it could be around up to $3,000 for probate. So that's something just to keep in mind and to know. And there are ways to avoid probate, sometimes depending on how you set up you or your parents or your grandparents' estate. So life insurance does not have to be probated, just so you know that it does not have to go through any type of probate. It's only based off of the beneficiaries left on the policy.
Yeah, that's where you mentioned the ex-spouses who.
Yeah, we've had that happen several times. Yeah.
Okay, so I have one more question.
Sure.
So what are the different types of power of attorney?
How do you?
Oh, go ahead, Nate. Go ahead, Nate. You're muted. Okay. Nate?
So there's a financial power of attorney, and then there's the medical. Oh, I think he's trying to talk. Now we can.
He's muted now.
I think it's going in and out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what about now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
That's better.
Okay, so how do I determine the difference between a estate plan versus a will?
That's a great question.
Can you kind of share some recommendations on when should a family do an estate plan versus?
Sure, that's a great question. So a will is really just about giving directions, to be transparent. It's just about giving directions on who gets what. When we say estate plan, it's more about the details of it. It's how does this person get it? What percentage is going to this person? Are the beneficiaries listed correctly? When we talk about estate planning, we go over all of the assets and where they go, how much goes to who, how they get it, how it's transferred to them. Excuse me, deciding which one you need is really about how much do you have. In my opinion, because everybody does it differently, but for me and my clients, I think everybody should have the conversation about estate planning, even if you only have one house and some cars and a retirement account. I like to do a consultation to go over that so you know exactly the plan, and that can include the will. But at the very minimum, technically, you only need a will if you have some assets that need to be passed down. So say a house, it could be just a house and you still need a will so that there's directions on what to do with that house. Otherwise, without the will, you are basically leaving it up to the state, the court system, on how your assets will be handled after you're gone. If you have more than just a primary home, you have some rental properties, you have multiple retirement accounts, you have a business, then you really need to be having the conversation about estate planning, really going into detail and talking about how are these things going to be passed so that there's no confusion and there's no holdup on where your assets are going. So hopefully that answered your question, Nate. And I would be happy to. I am not an attorney. I do work closely with an estate planning attorney, several of them. So at the very least, I'm always open to doing consultations and conversations on what's best for you. They're complimentary. So if you have additional questions, please feel free to contact me and I will either be able to assist you or I'll make sure you get to somebody who can assist you.
Thank you.
So what would be the typical cost for a family to budget for an estate plan?
That's a great question. A trust can start to cost you about $700. And there's a fee that they charge to kind of manage a trust. So it just depends on what you need, whether you need a trust, a will right now, you know, is running around $200. But like Ms. Donna, who's on the call, mentioned that there are some clinics that you can actually go and get a will complimentary. So I would budget though, I would budget probably around $500 to $1,000 to get started. However,
so
there are some ways to minimize those costs.
So an individual would have to pay.
Nate, your connection is bad.
So I would, an individual or a family would have.
Nate, we can't hear you.
Nate, I think we have a bad connection. I think you're asking about the cost. There's average costs, but there's ways to minimize those costs. As far as working with me.
Fee. In addition to that, I'll post it in the chat.
Okay, Nate, I don't know if you can hear me, but to work with me, there's no cost to start. I just go over what you have with you and direct you to somebody, whether it's me or somebody else, to help you start your estate plan. So I don't know if that answers your question, but if you're working directly with an attorney and you're trying to get documents together, I would plan for at least $700.
Okay, thank you.
And your contact information is going to be in the PowerPoint presentation that we received?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to put it right there for you.
Awesome.
Again, my name is Camille Hicks, and I am an insurance broker. I specialize in protecting families and businesses, but we do have a wide range of expertise and people on our team that we can refer you to. So feel free to call anybody on this call. Feel free to call me, message me, call my office, and we usually do about a 20 to 30 minute consultation. And then from there, we can tell you, hey, you need an attorney, you need an accountant, you need a tax specialist, you need life insurance, or we will basically help you start the plan and direct you to the right people. I see that Ms. Esther has a question. Ms. Esther De La Rosa, if you're there, feel free to ask your question. I see your hand up.
It says that she's connecting. Miss De La Rosa, do you have a question?
If you do, you're on mute. You can just unmute it and ask your question. Okay, any other questions?
For everyone on, we thank you for tuning in this morning, and we do apologize for getting off to a late start, but I think it was right on time. We will send out, Susan placed in the chat that she will send out all of the resource materials and handouts that Camille has shared with us today. And she's also going to include maybe a 5-question survey for you to let us know how you enjoyed the information. Was it beneficial for you? And also other topics that you would like for us to cover. I want to thank you, Camille. I can hear this over and over again, and I will continue to get, learn something new and take something different away.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I have another opportunity for you to speak also in November.
Okay.
So I will get with you. But thanks everyone, and don't forget to tune in with us next Wednesday, the 30th. We will have a presentation on summer grilling. We think about grilling as something fun during the summer, but also during the times when you don't have, you're not able to cook inside, and you have a grill, then you can grill outside to prepare meals for your family. So we will have a session next week on summer grilling, and we look forward to seeing you all back next Wednesday at 10 a.m. And please complete the survey that Susan will send out. And you all have a blessed day.